I hope your weekend is going well. This Friday's functions video will talk about how you can swap out data sources for galleries and or forms. I'd also give you some some things to think about when you want to change a data source, right? And as you know, when you add data sources to your list, you can access them for all of your screen and control operations. Remember, though, that when you're providing an app to people, they need to have access to the data sources. So does that mean that you can't make an app that has people only have access to one of the items in your data sources? Definitely you can do that, but you would have to trap their permissions, right? And so that's the topic of another video. Say, let's talk about DataSourceInfo and let's talk about IsError. But for this video, I'm going to make the assumption that everybody has access to all of the lists. We're just going to use the same forms and galleries to work with those lists. And the major reason why I tend to want to do this is because the less amount of controls you have in your app, usually the more performant it is. So by using the same forms and or galleries over and over again, depending on what list you need at a given time, will keep you from having a lot of screens and a lot of galleries layered on top of each other and such. Okay, so I basically have two lists, and I made it real easy for you to understand. I have test list number 1 and test list number 2. And if I go to my SharePoint site, you see I have test list number 2. It has 4 columns. It has a title column, and I deleted everything out of it. It has a title column. It has an order date column. It has a shipping method column and a contact methods column. So the scenario is I just have to, as an admin, I just have to, every time somebody makes an order, I have to log it here just so that we know how many things are going to be shipped. Okay? Really easy, right? But I'm going to use the app to log it. Now, between you and I, the reason I chose these columns is not only because of the business scenario, but because I wanted to show you how to work with a variety of control types. So title is a string of text, order date is a date, shipping method is a drop down or a single item select, and contact methods is a combo with multi items being able to be selected. So if we work with these types, you basically are covering all the things that really kind of matter to you, I think, right? Feel free to put a comment on the community page where I'll post this video, not under the YouTube video, but in the YouTube video, there'll be a link to the community page. Please put your comments there and I'll respond. Okay? All right. So I have created 2 identical lists. Now on this point, you want to use PowerShell or you want to use a list template whenever you want to duplicate lists. You do not want to manually create, 10 lists column by column. And the big reason for this is that when you manually create lists, it's possible that you create them slightly different, right? And so for this to work well, the schema of each list must be the same, okay? And in this case, they are. All right. There's a lot of PowerShell. So you look it up on Bing or Google. There's PowerShell scripts for creating SharePoint lists, or you can use a list template. Okay. So now that we know about the lists, I'm going to go to. Okay. I'm going to go to my app, and in my app, I have added the 2 lists. So that was like my first step. I added the 2 lists, right? And you can see that I have 4 screens here because I'm going to talk to you about 2 different ways to do this. Swapping it out for a form as well as, well, actually 3 I'm going to talk about. Swapping it out as a form, swapping it out on when you're patching. So in other words, you have, instead of having a form, you have controls for your inputs, and then you patch the data. And then on that same patch screen, I'm going to show you how to swap out a gallery. So, I mean, it's pretty easy, and there are several ways to do this. So I'm definitely not saying that my way is the only way. I'm always interested in seeing what super users do with these ideas and if they come up with better ways to do it. Okay, so just to kind of go through how this is set up, notice that my splash screen creates collections for each of my lists. All right, so it is doing it on visible where it's making collections. I don't even think this is necessary, but I feel more comfortable doing it that way. And so I made collections for each list. So I just call the first list SPL1, SharePoint List 1, and SharePoint List 2. And those collections have all the data from test lists number 1 and 2. Okay, so that's my on visible. Then I have basically this is your typical template for a screen. I have a rectangle behind a label that's just, and this is just, I use the template that we offer you for blank screens. And then here I have a drop down, and this drop down is important. I call it drop down SharePoint tables. And basically the data source of this, or the items for this drop down, need to match exactly. So let's see if I can get these both to show up at the same time. So this is my data source list, right? So if I click on this drop down, these match that, right? Apparently I can't put those both up at the same time. Yes, okay, so trust me that this test list number 1 and test list number 2 are the literal exact names that are in these data sources, and they can't be different. So this drop down, maybe if I alt click on the drop down to open it, there you go. No, I guess I have to hold it down. You can see that test list number 1 matches this data source, test list number 2 matches that one. So they match exactly. Now, in a real life situation, we don't want anybody choosing from data sources names. So what I have done, and I didn't do that today just to save time, is I made an Excel spreadsheet that had all of the data sources in column number 2. And then in column number 1, I put the friendly name that I wanted people to pick from. So a lot of times this happens in this scenario. I have different departments. Each department has a different SharePoint site and a different SharePoint list, right? So department 1 would pick its department in the dropdown. So in the spreadsheet, column 1 would say the department's name, and then column 2 would say what is the exact literal name of the SharePoint connection for that department, right? So when they click on this, it will go and look up this second number here, right? So that you don't have to show your users that. I think all of you have done that already, so I'm not going to go talking about lookups and talking about how you would set it up if you wanted them to see friendly names here. I just want to show you how to do this, and then you can make it all fancy and fun for your customer scenarios, all right? So I have literally put in here the data sources, okay? Their name exactly, right? As I said, I could have looked it up somewhere where there would be a friendly name here, like a department name or a community name or a building name, so that they could pick based on what the SharePoint list's purpose is, okay? So that drop down is pretty important. I named it DD SharePoint Tables, and I did not actually connect it to data because I only have 2. In your case, again, you might want to create an Excel spreadsheet, maybe import that spreadsheet because they're static, they're not going to change. Or you might want to actually connect it to data somewhere. That way you could update the department names and their list connector names. Remember, when it comes to the list name, you don't want to use the entire URL in this. You want to use just the name of the list. So this name here. And you want to be careful that the name you use is actually the name that is in that URL, right? So it's the name here, right? In case somebody had maybe gone back and renamed the list, you want to make sure you use the internal name, which is this one here, okay? So now you have your drop down, you have your page all set up. I have a button for patching, which just basically will go to my patching screen. So this one has an on select to go to my patching screen. And this one, which is for the form, has an on select that goes to the form screen, but it also sets the form into new mode, kind of important when you're adding new things. So as I go to the page screen form, I'm also telling it make the form, this is a form control, to be new, okay? And so that's basically my first page. With that thought, I'm going to just go and do everything, and then we'll look at each of these other screens one at a time. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to change this to list number 2, and then I'm going to go swap a form, right? So what I'm saying is when I click on this form, as you can see up here, is now connected to list number 2. There's only one form in this app, and it's this one. So I'm going to type in here the name of the customer, right? So customer name for table number 2. This is a title field, so you do have some limitations on what you can put in there. I defaulted the date to today, but I'm just going to put an order date of the 25th. Sorry, I'm just being a little slow here. I'm going to do an order date of the 25th because it's past tense. And then I'm going to click the OK button as soon as the 25 gets dark and say OK. A little bit slow. And then shipping method is, there's only one selection here, so I can pick U.S. Postal Service, Federal Express, or UPS. So I'm going to pick UPS. And then this is the one that has 2, so I'm going to pick email and office. So these are the contact methods my customer has agreed that I can use to contact them. Okay, so then I'm going to submit this form. Now it should go to number 2, table number 2. So let's go ahead and click submit. It bounces us back. We're going to go to the team site to the list number 2 to see if we have any data. So I'm just going to refresh list number 1. So you can see nothing should happen in table number 1. And then I'm going to go and refresh table number 2. I mean, table number 1. That was table number 2. Oh, I'm so confused. I lost myself there. So table number 1 is just because there's 2 tables. Oh, I got both of them are table number 1. That's why. So let me change the URL so that I go to table number 2. And there we should see what we just did because we did it to table number 2. Okay, and there is the thing we just did. So we've got the customer name, the title, the order date, the shipping method, and the contact methods, which are 2 things, right? Okay, let's do that one more time, switching to table number 1. So I'm still in run time here. Table number 1, I'm going to, you notice the ants, right? I'm going to swap to a form. And now this form is connected to table number 1. So I'm going to say customer name, table 1. And then let's change my order date to yesterday. Give it a minute to get dark. Say OK. Give it a minute. A second, I guess I should say. I'm going to do this one by Federal Express. And my contact methods are going to be mobile phone and email. Okay. So now this is going to table number 1. All right. So I'm just going to click thank you. All right. And then I'm going to go back to our table number 1 and refresh that screen. And you'll be able to see that we have the item that I just added with Federal Express and mobile telephone email. Okay, so let's take a peek at that page, right? So I'm going to go back to design mode. And then I'm going to go close this and go to screen form. All right, and you'll see that this screen is where we've been working, and there is only one form. So how does this form know what table to use, right? We're going to go to the data source property of this, and you'll notice that it has an if statement. Now, I could definitely have done a switch statement. I just find if easier to read for new people, but switch is actually more compact and probably the best thing to use. So if you like switch, use switch. I'm going to use if here just to make it very readable. So if this table value, this is that drop down where we chose the table. I'm saying if it's table number 1, then make the data source table number test list number 1. Otherwise, make it test as number 2. So of course, if I had more than 2, I would definitely use switch, right? Just to keep the code a little shorter, all right? And so that's all it's doing to determine what should be the data source for this. Now, a couple of caveats for this. These controls are not unlocked, okay? So here's where you might be slightly not thrilled with me. If I unlock any of these controls, this will no longer work, okay? And that's because when you lock a control, and that could be as simple as like changing this, anytime you press this unlock button, this idea will not work, right? So if you press it to change something in here, or you press it to, I don't know what you might want to do, but if you press this unlock button, this will not work, okay? So if your forms are basically good to go out of the box, right, you just need to go to your property panel and kind of pick your fields, and all fields are happy, right? Or you need to, maybe you need to do something in here that's pretty straightforward, right? I could make the columns 2 and things like that. That's not going to hurt anything. But once I kind of go in there and unlock those fields, then this will not work. So many people will say to me, Audrey, I need to unlock fields. Oh, well, in that case, then we have to patch, okay? So I'm going to just, one more thing I want to show you here. This is all new form, so there's no need for an item property. I hope you all know that on a form, the item property is ignored when it's a new form, so you don't even have to worry about it. I did this, and then on this button, all I did was submit the edit form. Now I also have, and this is a good practice, you always want to put your on successes and your on failure into your form controls, because this helps you know whether it succeeded or failed, right? So in on success, you want to not only reset the form, but bring it back a page. You don't want to do that on failure, right? And the reason is because you want to see the error message. And every time you add a form control, you will get an error message. It doesn't show unless there's an error, but you need to see it, so you don't want to go back, right? You don't want to, if you fail, you don't want to go back. You only want to go back to the previous page if you succeed. All right, so with that said, let's try a different way. So that was pretty easy. The only caveat to that is that if you need to unlock your cards, it won't work. All right, so what would you do if you need to unlock your cards and you need to have more, you need your controls to be more, unique than a form control? Then we would patch. So I'm going to first patch to list number 2, and I'm going to click on the patch, and I put in parentheses there, patch to a form, right? Patch is field to field. And so each of these fields are basically added to this page, right? So this is customer, okay, let's do second customer list 2, okay? And then, and I can tell that I'm on list 2 because I put it down here. I should have put it up here too. But yeah, we are doing, this is what's in list 2 right now, this moment. I'm going to change the date. And I'm going to put my contact as office and email, and then I'm going to go Federal Express. All right. So now when I click this, I am patching, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click that. I didn't have an on success here because I actually want you to be able to see the list item added in the gallery. So you can see that down there. And then if we actually go to SharePoint and just double check, you should have a second item after I refresh. Okay, so I'm still in table number 2, and there is my new item, right? Now let's do the patch with table number 1, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is fix my spacing here. I don't like it when I mess up on spacing. Let's try making that auto height. All right, that should fix that. Yeah, that's better. All right, now we're going to go back to the previous page and pick table number 1. Okay, then we're going to go patch. And then here, I'm going to just put my own name here. And I'm going to say table 1. And again, I put it down here, what table we've selected. I probably should have put it up there. Then I'm going to put my order date. And I'm going to put my contact method. And I'm going to put Federal Express. I think I'm going to put all 3 contact methods. So we got all 3 contact methods. And then I'm going to go and patch this. Now this will go to list number 1, which currently has only one item called customer name table 1. So let's go ahead and patch that. I left it there. I did not go back because I want you to see the new item, right? And so there's the new item that is on the list now. Okay, so I'm going to go back to SharePoint and just check table number 1. I'm sure you trust me by now. And I'm going to refresh. And then we'll talk about how that patch was built. Okay, so there's the second one in table number 1 with all 3 contact methods included. Okay, so how did I do that patch screen? All right, let's look at that. Well, I'm sorry, let me go back to the patch screen and click X. Okay, so now what's on this patch screen? So if you notice, I have a single gallery. If you look on my left navigation here, my screen explorer, you'll see that I have a single gallery on this page. And just like the form we did earlier, it also has a conditional which data should I use. So this particular items property says if the selected value is test list number 1, then use collection SPL1, otherwise use collection SPL2. And those, if you remember, are the collections that I built when I opened the app. Now, what's important is not only is that important for the gallery, but when I patch, I actually end up with that at the bottom too. So don't get scared of this patch statement because it's a little interesting, but I'm going to break it down for you so you get it. It includes, just kind of pull this down, at the very bottom of it. So I can click in there and do a Control E and D on my keyboard. And here I am at the bottom. It actually resets those collections after I patch. Because if I don't reset the collections that were made on screen load, then I won't see the new data that I added to SharePoint. So I actually create the collections twice, both on screen, on visible screen on the splash screen, but also on patch, right? I don't need to do that on edit form, but I do need to do it on patch because I want them to see what they just added. And since this gallery is pointing to a collection, I needed to update the collection. Okay, so that's how that's done. I think this is just my way of getting back to, oh no, this one is supposed to go to my collections, and I'll explain that as well. So let's change this text because that was just me making a mistake. And I'm just going to call this view combo box collection. And so here's another fun thing is that this combo box for contact methods creates a table of items, right? And so this table of items is coming from the choice list in SharePoint. And so I used now these are just controls I placed on the screen, right? But in order to get the right choices in here and the right choices in here, I had to set the items property of these controls that I placed on the screen to use the choices function, typing the name of the list, and then typing the column. Now, I don't have to switch these out. Why? Because my tables are identical. There's no reason for me to swap these out. I just need to have those choices in each of those controls, okay? So with that done, and basically all I did was, and I do suggest, guys, that you name your controls, because when you're patching, you don't want the stress of data card value 1 or something silly like that. You need to have real titles, right? So this one is called text title. The order date is called DTE order date. The contact methods is called combo, because I usually let myself know in my title that it's a combo box. You could also do CBO, right? And when you change, by the way, when you change a combo box or any control to a different name, it will change it in the formulas where it's referenced. So that's always good to know. You can change them after the fact. It will go through the app and change that reference everywhere that it's referred to. Okay. Then I have a contact methods, which is a combo. I have shipping methods, which is a drop down. So I usually use DD because that helps me know also it's only one selection. Then I have the button patch, which is hiding there, which you don't need to know about it, because I actually ended up using this, which is the icon accept. I just used the one that comes with the template and put the patch statement on that as opposed to the button. But I did have a button on the screen that I was used for testing, and I just hit it, right? Then I have these description for the title, the description for the order date, the description for the sorry, I'll rename this too. This is description contact methods. I think I was hungry and wanted to go get some fruit, and I typed exactly what I was thinking. Has that ever happened to you? Okay, I'm having an issue. Okay, contact methods, right? And these are DSC because they're just descriptions, right? They're just descriptions. They're just like that text you used to have on the top of your fields in InfoPath, right? And here's my description for shipping, right? So what else do I have in here? I have the top of the screen, which I basically just used a template for a blank screen. Then I have this little label that says which lists, right? And this is where I said I could have put this at the top of the screen. But basically all it does is let you know what was selected on that first screen just by doing ddsptables.selected.value, right? But totally could take this story, put it up here, change this to text. Let's make this a little bit better. And then I'll put a space. I'll leave a space here, and then I'll do patch 2, and then space and DC selected. So it's like now I have the list name at the top of the screen, which is probably a good practice so people know what they're doing. And so, of course, this wouldn't say patch to the literal. It would probably say add to department 1, right? Because the human being doesn't need to know about patch, but they need to know that they're adding a new item to the list for their department. So they would see add to department 1 because they picked department 1. Department 1 just happens to be mapped to test list number 1. Okay, very simple stuff, guys. All right, so what about this? I think we talked about the gallery, right? Same kind of thing as the form, actually, not a big change here. And let's look at the patch. Okay, so this is the fun part, is the patch. And what makes this patch fun is this multi-select combo box. So this is one of the major reasons why I made this video. Okay, so let's look at the patch statement together. I love it when we have confidence and we just kind of jump right in there. Okay, so that combo box needs to be put into a collection. It really needs to be put into a collection to make this nice and easy. And that collection needs to be turned into a table, and then that table can be used when we run our patch. So I'm going to start with the combo box story. And all of this that you see right here is all about the combo box, right? And so don't think about anything else yet. Just focus on this part right here, which is about the combo box, right? So what you see on the screen up to right there, right? This is your combo box. So what I do is I set up a collection called contact methods, because my combo box is letting people pick all the contact methods that they would like us to use, as opposed to us calling them and they don't use their phone kind of thing, right? So first I make that collection, make sure it's clear, make sure it's empty, because we don't want to pick up what was done before. Then I clear a table that I've dedicated to the contact methods, right? Now, why is this table needed? It's because the contact methods are just words. We need more than words. We need an index number as well. So the table will include an iterator and a value. So here we're going to make this collection first, right? So for everything that has been selected in our combo, so combo contact methods dot selected items, for everything there, we'd like to collect into the collection contact methods an iterator, which is counting the rows, and a value. So this count row iterator is going to increase in number each time it goes through everything selected, right? So this collect statement will happen up to 3 times in my case, because I have 3 different email, telephone, and something else. I have 3 things in there. So the top number will actually be 2, because iterators start at 0, 0, 1, 2. So I'm going to end up with a collection that's going to have the contact methods with the iterator. Let's see if it remembers the last one, so we can look at this. No, it doesn't. So I'll run it so you can see it happen. The negative thing about this is it clears in the beginning, so I might not be able to show you the collection. We'll see what I can do to help you see that. So then after we now have this collection called contact methods with an iterator, with an iterator, so this is the collection name. It has an iterator and a value. Now I'm going to take everything in there and I'm going to put that into a table. Now I need to make this a very special table, and this is the part I bet you love this, right? You guys out there just love this little reference right here. We need to pass to SharePoint an OData type, and please don't ask me to explain that. But there's basically 2 OData types that we work with in this context: the SharePoint list expanded reference and the one for people. In this case, we're not dealing with people, but if you Google this whole thing up to this dot, you'll get both the SharePoint list, or Bing, excuse me, you'll get both the SharePoint list expanded reference and the other one, which is for people, right? Just don't have it handy right now to share with you. We're not doing people, so you always use this. So when you're not doing people, you'll always use this one, right? And then you're going to pass into that an ID, which is the iterator, and a value, okay? So basically, what's different between the collection and the table is that the collection is just the 2 columns, the index number and the value, whereas the table includes this OData type. And SharePoint needs that OData type for any complex field. Okay, so now that we have our table that we can use in our SharePoint list, now we can do our patch statements. Now here's kind of the bad news I have, and I'd love for you guys to tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, because I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't use in my patch statements a variable, right? So I couldn't pick a variable inside my patch statement. I just couldn't figure that out. If you guys can figure it out, great, do it. So what I had to do, because I couldn't figure out how to get a variable in my patch, is I just did an if statement that says if the selected value is table number 1, then I wrote the patch statement for table number 1, else, so I have an if then else here, it patches table number 2, right? What would be awesome is if we could put a variable within the patch. I don't believe we can yet, right? Definitely all of us need to go vote for that. But if we could add a variable here, then we'd have one patch statement, right, for everything, right? Because we do a variable statement there. But since I couldn't figure that out, we're just going to do an if statement. And the if statement says if it's table number 1, then patch to table number 1. If otherwise, patch to table 2. Now, I'm going to point out the hard stuff here. So as far as the title field, I always put it in. So I'm just going to return twice. I made a mistake there. This guy, Control X. Sometimes I comment, right? And so I wanted to put a comment in front of auto date, because order date is a little bit different than a regular drop down, in that you don't reference selected value, you reference selected date. So I just wanted to say that. Title, I always submit a title, and so you'll see my little comment right here. I believe that even if you don't need it, submit the title. It's something SharePoint E that I'm thinking about that. If you're using another data source besides SharePoint, not so important. In this case, the title field is required, so I've got to set something here. And so in this case, I'm going to use what's in my text title field. The contact methods, which I probably should have done later just for the sake of order, but I'm passing that table in there, and that's all I need to do to update that combo box in this patch, is pass that table. And that is the great news. You just have to understand how to create that table, which I just explained, and then you just pass that table in your patch. Then I did my date. Now the choice column is also a little, I guess we would say a little bit funky. I don't know what's the right thing to say here. A little bit funky. Let's go ahead and do these as a comment. I'm just commenting out stuff. All right. So I guess I don't need that. Okay. So choice columns reference the choices column, which we don't know how to spell apparently, from the list, right? And are updated by mapping a value to the control. So the shipping method is a single select choice list. So all I need to do for shipping is look up from the choice list. And again, it doesn't matter which list I choose there, because all of my lists are identical in their schema. But I'm going to choose the column shipping method. And then what I'm saying is now go take what's in shipping method. Go when you update this list, the shipping method should have the value of what has been selected in the shipping method dropdown. Okay, so you just have to do a little funky little lookup for choices, right? In this case, this is a choice single select. If it was combo, if it was multi-select, you'd have to go back and do the same method I did here with contact. All right, so basically once I got it right, I could just copy it. So let's, for my else statement, right? And I'm just copying this middle part because, there we go. And then I'm just going to get rid of this. All right. So they should be identical, because basically the only difference between this if-then statement is the patching data source, so the source, and the record to update. Now this is defaults because it's new, right? So defaults is whenever you're adding new items. If this was a patch where you were editing, then this would be where you'd put your condition, right? Okay, and that's what you need for the patch. Now, after you finish patching, and you'll need one close paren for every if statement. If you use if, try switch as well. I'm going to also reset my controls. And so every single control that they typed in, I'm just going to reset it just by typing reset and the control name. That way, the next time you come into the screen, it's blank. That's it. All right. This was the hardest part. Now, I want to show you that once you have your patch statement, right? I'm just doing a control S because I just did something that I don't want to lose, right? And so just in case I have a network break or something happens to my internet connection, I don't have to worry about losing what I just did, which took attention to detail, okay? So what I want to show you is that this combo box, and let's just make one. Let's call this Jane Smith and leave the date as is. And notice I'm going to pick all 3 items here. And what I want you to do is look at what's happening here. So if I view the combo box collection, oh, sorry, I have to do my patch first. So let me go back. I should have done so I'm going to go here. And now I'm going to actually do the patch to table 1 with those 3 items. Now, if you want to look at this table, right? So there it is. This table is nested. So if you look here, well, let's just look here because here they are. You can see that this is a nested scenario. So there's one customer to multiple contact methods. If I view this here, what I've done is I've taken this gallery. Let's just look at this gallery. And I've set this gallery here. Hello, gallery. There you go. I've set this gallery here to contact methods table. So this gallery has everything I need for the patch because it has the table items. I didn't bother to put the iterator in here, but let's see if we can do that. I'm just going to open this up. This guy here is the value. See if I can get the iterator to show up here. And there, you see, this has all 3. So this table has the OData type, the value, and the ID, right? So what do we want to show here? Let's show the ID, which is that iterator, right? So this is what helps us to submit it through that patch. So that table is what we used in our patch statement. So if we go back to screen patch and we look one more time at our patch statement, and then we're basically done, guys. That's all it is. You'll see that we've put into that table 3 different fields. And then when we patched it, we patched the single column. This is the column name. Everything to the left of the colon is a column name. And these are internal column names here. Then I patched that table in. Now on the column names, if you have kind of funky, you have different display names than you have column internal names, you're welcome to use the, we have an experimental feature now that's called use column display names. If you turn that on and your display names are different from your internal names, then you'll just use the display name in your formulas. Only I don't recommend you ever use experimental features in production apps. So try out the experimental feature in your POCs and in your sample apps and your demo, but don't use this in your production apps because experimental features may disappear at any time. This one, I doubt it will disappear because it's so awesome, but give it a try. All right, so that's the whole story, guys. We were able to make an app with only, basically it has 3 screens because the collection was just a demo to show you the value. That actually will submit to 2 different lists with 1 single form and 1 single gallery without a problem. And if you ever have a need to do that, refer back to this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're trying to see how much people love it. Subscribe, share this video with others that are using SharePoint, because this video is pretty much a SharePoint video, but feel free to patch like this to other data sources as well. You guys have an awesome rest of your weekend, and I'll be talking to you soon at the next Friday Functions video.